because 99% of us are suffering at the mercy of the madmen on the street. Because all of us are victims of class warfare being waged on us by the 1%. Because these greedy banksters rob the country, leaving us without the means to pay the rent. Because the last time that we had a decent government was about 1932. Because we the people are supposed to run this country, but instead it's all run by and for the few. Because now we know the rich do not pay taxes, but when they need a hand it's us who bail them out. Because we suspected we lived in a plutocracy, but suddenly of late there is no doubt, so we're gonna stay right here. We're gonna stay right here.
The camera sees more than your eye does.
Right, but I have all of that from all the locals and the networks.
So, how are we going to, who pays the bills and how much?
Who's the executive producer on this project?
Executive? If being an executive producer means you have to take up the tab.
I think the backstory of this is back in 1968, there were some people who, I think it was a film group, and I think you were working with Mike Gray and Haskell Wexler, and people shot footage that ended up being used in a movie that incorporated the Democratic Convention demonstrations, some call them riots, some call them rebellions, and the work of people in Uptown with young Southern whites into a movie called Medium Cool. And now you all came back. I know Haskell Wexler, he's here, and Mike Gray, who he's here with a camera right now. Why don't you tell us why this coterie of great filmmakers and actors and people have come together here in Chicago during the NATO demonstrations?
Well, I think that, the idea that there are 3 or 4 generations of filmmakers working together to try to tell a story that should have been told already. In '68 we were trying to stop a war, and we are now spending trillions and trillions of dollars fighting these corrupt, illegal wars that are totally unnecessary. And Michael and I have been working for a long time trying to figure out how to tell the story about what you could do with all that money. And so the reality is, if you take the money we're spending on these wars and put it into healthcare, into education, into alternative energy, the whole world could be a beautiful place.
How would you contrast this event with '68?
The big difference is that white kids were being drafted in '68, and everybody's life was immediately affected by it. Now, people are more isolated, in spite of the fact there's all this communication, people are isolated or they feel impotent because everybody knows what's going on, and how do you organize enough to really make a change? And they say, well, vote people in, and voting people in takes $1 billion. And to raise $1 billion today, you've got to be kissing ass to everybody. And you can't do the right thing. You can't take on those people that can crush you if you don't play ball with them. Today we heard of statistics that 1/4 of the military budget, right, would pay for all of the basic needs of life. 1/4 of the military budget. So if we save 25%, people could live pretty good and we wouldn't have to have all these things killing each other.
My name is Michael Deutsch. I'm with the People's Law Office in Chicago and also a member of the National Lawyers Guild. And I was called on Saturday morning and asked to come to a bail hearing because 3 men were being charged with terrorism charges. And when they arrived here, they were involved in the May Day. There was a May Day demonstration here in Chicago. And they were involved with that, and then they were invited to a party that night. And at that party, they were approached by 2, a man and a woman. And it's kind of a familiar but troubling story about how these 2 ingratiated themselves with the 3 from Florida. They started talking about actions and activities and doing reconnaissance, and ultimately they came to a house that they were in with gasoline and rags, and in their presence, or at least in presence of some of them, started to make Molotov cocktails, which is essentially a bottle with a rag in it and some oil. And in the process of those people, Mo and Gloves, doing that, Mo said, "I got to go to the bathroom," and he left. And then the next thing you know, the police, the FBI, had carried out a raid on that apartment. The Molotov cocktails were essentially made by the police informants. And this is another case of the police creating the crime and then arresting the people and then having a big press conference, which they had after the bail hearing, asking for $5 million bail and charging them with terrorism charges.
It seems like the timing was almost clockwork.
Absolutely. Saturday morning they had the bond hearing. $5 million bond, firebombing the mayor's home and the Obama and police stations, the prelude to the big march on Sunday. And they wanted to discourage people to go to that march, and they wanted to create the impression that the police are protecting us and that we're in danger of violence in the protests.
I found the week to be a resounding success, regardless of the police repression that turned up in the middle of the weekend. We were extremely successful at getting our message across to the general populace through nonviolent direct action. I think the biggest thing is that we are up against a lot. The world is in a state right now that's going to require everyone, and we can't rely on one individual or a small group of individuals to make those changes. We all need to step up and be empowered and realize that by coming together as a group rather than relying on a sole individual, we have a greater chance of really affecting the world that we live in today.
Because these moments don't come often. Because we want truly to be free. Because we know what really matters. Something called society. So we're gonna stay right here. We're gonna stay right here. We're gonna stay right here. We're gonna stay right